Hi, I'm Dr. Jim Hoven, your host of the Difference Makers podcast. This is a place where people come together that are making a difference for those who want to make a difference. And that's you. We're bringing thought leaders together in a sense of fusion where ideas and concepts and personalities are all driven together into one place at one time. And this is no different. In this episode, you're going to see cool things from cool people making a difference. Hello, Difference Makers. It's time again for another show where we're going to share a story, share information and education about someone who's making a difference in the community. In this case, it's going to be in the community of the entire state of Colorado and even some of our surrounding states as in South Dakota and New Mexico. And I can't wait to share the information and the story of this guest. Kate Rao is her name. She's the executive director of we call it the Colorado League. It's a mountain biking specific community for high school kids that basically helps raise their spirits, raise their skills, and it also is an educational program for not only them, but for coaches. So we're going to get into it right now. We're going to have a great time. Once you hear this, you're going to want to tune in, and it's going to inspire you probably to something cool like getting on a mountain bike, and we're going to want you to share this. So hold on. We're getting with Kate right now. Kate, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's so good to have you. And you know, it's funny because I love mountain biking. I love it, love it, love it. And that said, I haven't done it in a while. I have a bike that the time has gotten away from me, but I grew up, once I graduated from chiropractic, so I grew up as a professional mountain biking several times a week and just really enjoyed it. And so to have the chance to have you here and talk about mountain biking and how it's impacting so many kids, over 2,000 kids in Colorado and these surrounding states, it's really a pleasure for me. So as we start to do this, tell me, how did mountain biking come to the forefront of your life?
Well, I moved to Colorado in 1980 and before the advent of a mountain bike, but I didn't own a car until I was 25. And when I graduated from college, I discovered mountain biking. And to me, it was like skiing on dirt.
Yes.
And the culture, and in Colorado, it was in our DNA, so to say. I went to Durango Worlds in 1990 and saw, Ned Overend win, John Tomac. I was a huge fan of Dave Weens and
so
Susan
some of the best riders in the world were here.
Yes, and so I just loved it and started doing it very recreationally, and it was a life changer for me as far as being outdoors, having fun, and just that exploration and connection, smelling dirt, seeing the wildflowers in the mountains, and the camaraderie was off the charts for me.
And so did you get deep into the mountain biking scene, into the culture and then the racing and all those kinds of things that kind of led you up to starting and founding really this Colorado League for students?
Well, that's a little a twisty path, so to say.
Okay.
I got my first mountain bike in 1986. I did a little bit of racing, followed people like Dave Weens and Susan DiMattei, and went to Durango just for fun because it was the first Worlds. And I was in environmental consulting, so I used a mountain bike as bringing our teams together when we were out working in the field. I said, let's just get some mountain bikes for a day and bring the team together. We rode over from Breckenridge down into Copper. We had no idea what we were doing.
Yes, I've done that. I know that one.
And so I was in environmental consulting. Then I got into education and teaching skiing and snowboarding, and I also got into intervention and was a co-founder of a program working with kids and families in crisis. And so I decided that bringing something that's more fulfilling and creating magical memories for families, because when these families were in chaos, it was always important to have something that they shared, so they could overcome these crises. And I, when I was teaching skiing and snowboarding up at Eldora, I met somebody, Matt Tomasco, who started Single Track Mountain Bike Adventures. And so I basically talked myself into a job there and started working with that program for 12 years. And when I was seeing, while I was working at the intervention program, I really felt that kids needed something where they could build confidence and something that they could do with their parents and their families. And it just was a way for me that I could help bring kids and families together during high school, which is a very tumultuous time. Kids are individuating. Sometimes there's a lot of change amongst the parents and the kids. And so if they have a foundation of something that they shared, joy and a sense of connection with one another and the outdoors, I thought it was a winning formula.
That's great. So when you start thinking this idea up, you're thinking of bringing the families together, giving the kids some structure, giving them something to do, some discipline, some exercise, all these things that we know help kids kind of develop and nurture very well. How did you make it official by going into the schools then? Because I remember from looking at some of the information, I think you started with a couple hundred kids or something, right? In the first schools. Was it a battle, getting schools to form teams, or was it pretty easy to say, hey, we're going to form a mountain bike club kind of thing? Give us the history of that.
So when I was working at Single Track Mountain Bike Adventures, I was always watching what was happening in junior cycling. And in 1996 and 98, Steve McCauley of USA Cycling and I would put on some races, and it was one race a year in the fall with high school mountain bikers, and kids from Durango, Ned Overend's son won one year, would come, and we'd get like 60 kids. And we would just divide the kids up and say, what school do you go to? Because there were a couple of programs in Boulder, and we would combine. And then on the way down to the race, we'd say, okay, what school? So you guys are now a team. So I had some connections with families through my work at Single Track Mountain Bike Adventures, and knew other programs, Durango Devo, Steamboat, some Vail programs. And so I just reached out to people and said, let's make this happen. And so it was challenging for schools to accept this because, rightfully so, athletic directors, one, are very busy, and two, it's not a conventional sport, and there are risks involved. And it's new, right? 15 years ago, it was new. It's still considered new.
Yes.
So the teachers and the coaches, really the coaches, were the ones that represented the schools and would create relations with administrations. And some administrations would adopt it, Gunnison, wholeheartedly. Crested Butte, wholeheartedly.
The mountain communities.
The mountain communities were more open. Believe it or not, Boulder County has 5 teams, and we've had 5 or 6 teams since day one.
Are there any? Is this is it hard for an urban team to even be formed because of a lack of trail systems to go train on and practice on? Like, I can imagine, I live out in Morrison, and so Matthews Winters and all, they're right by me. But if you lived on kind of the east side of Denver, maybe in Aurora or in, some of the Southlands area, it's harder to get
Definitely.
to that. Is that
the
case?
East High has done a wonderful job. They've been a team since 2012, I think. And they do a fantastic job of linking, the canal trails and finding ways to engage kids. And thankfully, the new trails out at Cherry Creek Reservoir, they probably go to Waterton Canyon a lot. So the coaches are very creative. And we used to have a team out of an adjudicated youth program called Ridgeview Academy. If you see the movie Hard Miles, that is based on Greg Townsend, a coach. And they had 150 yards or something where they would train.
Wow.
Because it was a small place. But you can develop skills with games and learning skills and then endurance. So our courses are designed to be accessible to an entry-level rider.
Now, are these training courses, racing courses, or both?
Racing courses.
Racing courses.
And ideally still fun for an upper-level rider.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. Now, when these kids come in, I was reading through the website, and they were talking about, like, you don't want to exclude any kids, so you have scholarships and this kind of thing. And so do all kids have to come with their own bikes, or is it something that the club has bikes or the league has bikes that they use or rent? Or if someone doesn't have a bike, how does that work?
So ideally they come with their own bikes. We do provide scholarships, and they won't buy a bike with our scholarship. However, teams have been very resourceful, and they sometimes raise enough money to buy a loaner bike. Or we'll give teams scholarships as well. So our scholarships go to teams, coaches, and riders. And the teams can use some of that money to help buy a bike or radios or first aid kits, or help their coaches get the wilderness first aid and CPR trainings that they need. So the community is so supportive that teams will usually figure out a way if there's a barrier. Of, who's got a bike that
and
somebody
maybe they
can
borrow
a bike. Somebody's got an extra bike in their garage. There's lots of pre-owned bike shops like Lucky's Recyclery, which is part of Lucky to Ride, Community Cycles, Project Bike Tech. Project Bike Tech doesn't sell bikes, but there's lots of organizations that have bikes that are at a good starter bike.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So now tell me this, when you get these kids together, from, again, looking through and do a little research, it looks like it's a no-cut sport, meaning
Correct.
that if 20 kids want to be on a team, that's fine. If 120 kids wanted to be on a team, that's fine. So tell me what value that you guys feel that brings. And then number two, it's an individual sport within a team. How do bring the team dynamics in for me? So that two-part question of the team dynamics and the no cut. Like, why did you guys come to that decision?
So the no cut, because anybody can ride a bike, right?
Yep.
And we want to embrace kids to learn confidence, self-esteem, and a lifelong sport. You don't need a field or 5 other people to engage in this activity.
Yes.
So we wanted it to be open and welcoming and inclusive.
I love that.
So that's the no cut. Then as far as the team scoring and dynamic, it's phenomenal because girls and boys combined make the score for the team. So it's the top 15, 10, or 5, depending on the team size, riders. And then kids all get ranked individually within their category. But it's so cool to see how every team is cheering everyone on. And your highest level varsity racer is cheering on the freshmen. The kids stay all day, typically, and they swarm at the finish line and cheer the last rider just as much as the mid-pack rider, and every kid's name is called when they come through the finish line. And what's so cool is that the kids are racing, right?
And are they racing against each other or against the clock? In other words, do they all go out at one flight and they're jockeying for a position?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Do you have many bad wrecks because of that?
Sometimes the sophomore boys or the JV boys have a little crash at the start. But, kids are going to crash.
Yeah.
It's mountain biking.
So are adults.
Yeah.
You ride enough, you're going to go down.
Yep. And play soccer, same thing.
Yep.
Basketball, volleyball. So what's unique about this sport, there's many things, but I remember talking to a parent and they said, we were just at a football game and the vibe here is so different, not to discount any other sports. But what I came to realize is when you're in these other sports where it's on a field, everyone's watching your every move, right? High school mountain biking, you're out there riding for 6 miles. You come through the finish line, everybody's cheering you on. And you get a boost and you go back out there and you're just doing your thing. You're talking to your buddy, you're fixing a flat, you're, flowing through the course, you're learning how to drink and pace yourself. Sure, there's course marshals out there cheering you on for safety and all those kinds of things, but you're not under a fishbowl.
Yes.
And nobody's yelling at you to tell you to,
tackle this or do that. Yeah.
And the coaches aren't under scrutiny. There aren't refs, who are under scrutiny as well. So it has that sense of joy and freedom and discipline and pushing your limits. And you can push it personally and then combined those personal, individual accomplishments and successes are accumulated to see where you are as a team.
And when you guys are working with the coaches, educating them and doing the things that lead up to the race, because it's a 4-race series, basically with a championship at the end, right?
Yes.
And then it starts end of August?
Correct.
And then goes through into beginning of October, kind of?
Yeah, middle of October.
Middle of October. And so there's a season for this that they have to train up through that. Do you guys as a collective, as the league, do you say, here's what here's our vision and our mission. We want to instill discipline, physical health, this and that, and we're giving you tools to try to train that? Or is it, hey guys, you do it your way, however, school 1, school 2, school 3, you guys do what you do to train, and we're putting together the events. What are the vision aspects of the principles that you as a league are trying to push to these kids?
Great question. So we have a mantra of ride, connect, and empower. So if the ride part is we teach coaches how to teach fundamental skills. And we believe through riding, you're gaining health, you're gaining a new skill, you're learning about yourself, who you are. And so that's the connection part. You're connecting with other people. You have mentors that believe in you as an individual. And you're connecting to the outdoors. You're making new friends. You're exploring new locations. And you become empowered through this experience so that we can launch these individuals to become successful, confident young adults.
And is it a freshman through senior program? So you can come in as a 9th grader and go all the way through?
Yes, and we call those legacy riders. Student athletes that participate from at least one race every single year in high school. We call them legacy riders, and they get a legacy belt buckle, and they get a special race plate their senior year that's gold, so that everybody knows that they have committed to this sport all 4 years.
Wow. And in the championship of a season, is it the person who's like an extended Tour de France where the winner of the cumulative points wears the yellow jersey? Is that how it would be?
Yes.
Where if someone goes all 4 races and has the most points into the championship, they're the one that's going to win it? Is that how it's set up?
So we have a leader's jersey for the regular series within 4 conferences. So there's a leader for each conference within each category, varsity through freshman,
so
boys
is that
and
the
girls.
categories? Okay, so it goes JV, varsity, and freshman?
And sophomore.
And okay, gotcha.
So there's 4 categories by grade, and you can move up. If you're a really fast freshman, you can request to race JV or varsity, etc. And boys and girls.
Wow.
So the varsity boys and the varsity girls, which is a really cool thing because they're on the course at the same time. And sometimes the girls pass the varsity boys and the varsity boys pass the girls. And so that's very exciting. But the leaders are cumulative points for the series. And so at state championships, at the sophomore girls lineup, you will see 4 leaders. The leader of each region.
4 categories or
of
the regions.
Each region.
Okay.
So each category
Gotcha.
will have 4 leaders, which is really cool because you'll see these 4, overall conference jerseys, and the kids wear them proudly, as they should, because they work really, really hard. The kids are so inspiring.
Yes.
How much they dig deep and learn something new about themselves, and how they support one another, and how they encourage one another, and that sense of shared joy, as well as overcoming adversity. And they have somebody there to cheer them on.
Wow.
And to support them. And that's the other thing that I really love, is seeing the seasoned racers and older kids really mentoring the younger kids or the novice riders. They show them how to get the feed zone. They teach them how to warm up. They teach them how to keep their chain lubed, because we have really dusty courses. And if your chain is dry, it can be challenging.
Right. So you're getting this mentorship, and like you said, the empowerment and connection. You're empowering the older ones to be mentors, and you're equipping kind of the younger ones to come up into it. With all that being said, with the team, so we have these individual leaders. I'm sure by that time, the faster people all take off at the same time, so you're not mixing them in with the quote unquote slower or more novice riders. What about the teams? How do they, is it just the total number of points based on the best times that would determine the winning team, or do you guys award winning teams?
Yeah, so the teams are divided in divisions: the big teams, medium-sized teams, and small teams. So the big teams are competing amongst the big teams. The smaller teams are competing amongst the smaller teams. And so their points are combined within their division, which is their team size. So a Division 1 team, we take the top 15 scorers. So you could have a freshman girl scoring for that team that day because she is the top scorer for her team.
Yes.
So the top 15 scorers are accumulated points added together, and that's the total team Division 1 points.
Got it. That's such a cool concept and system. And if you've never been around mountain biking and some of these scoring systems, it can seem a little daunting, like how's it work? But trust me, when these folks get to going, it's a system, and it just works on how they all connect. And a thing about connecting that I wanted to bring up and highlight that you just kind of barely mentioned was the connection between rider and nature, and rider and land, being a responsible user of the land. Can you just speak on a little bit about what you guys as a group and as a system teach these kids about taking care of the land?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. The kids and the coaches work really hard to give back, and we foster that through what's known as the Golden Pick Award, and that's underwritten by a sponsor, SRAM RockShox. And for one of each region, the teams, quote, compete for the Golden Pick Award. So in one region, we will calculate the number of trail hours per team size, and that normalizes the big teams against the small teams within that region. And so we've last year, I think they contributed over 1,800 hours of trail work.
Wow. And describe to people what that looks like. What does that mean, trail work, to make sure that the thing is rideable for everybody, for all the public?
Right. So they'll go out and They'll get rid of weeds. They'll reroute a trail if it's getting eroded. They'll work with a land manager, and those land managers are phenomenal, and they love working with the kids. And they'll have a bunch of shovels and picks, and they'll be moving rocks around, or they'll be armoring a berm, or rerouting something for water flow. And so the kids really get to learn trail building and understand how erosion works, why you want to stay on the trail and not widen it, and ride through puddles, not around them. Mm-hmm. So the kids, then they get to ride every day what they've worked on.
Wow. I love that so much. And so we've talked about the inclusivity, we've talked about the connection to nature, we've talked about the structure of it. I saw some of the difference that this had made through testimonials that some of the kids had written. When kids go through the program, whether they're there 1 year, 2 years, or all 4 years, what is it that you hope that they accomplish? And what stories have you had them come back and share with you about what the Colorado League meant to them?
Well, my hope is that they believe in themselves, and that know that they can overcome adversity, and that there's a community to support them wherever they go.
Yes.
And I have, overall, the senior, we have this ritual called the senior single track send off. So at the overall conference, we do a little parade for all the seniors, and it's quite emotional, and same with states. And I'll never forget being at a finish line, and one of the riders was, it's bittersweet. I want it to be the most influential, positive experience that student athlete has in high school.
Yes.
And it is when it's powerful and emotional for them to leave, right? I have to leave this family that I've spent all this time exploring and having these adventures together and digging deep. And I said to this one rider, I said, remember, you're always a Summit Tiger. And remember that wherever you go, people will support you, especially if you find the right people. If you find a community, go with that community. If a community is not welcoming and supporting of you, find a different community. But they have that experience of to distinguish what's supportive and healthy and fostering their growth. And as I say, supporting their ability to shine. If we can instill that sense of internal confidence and belief in themselves and the goodness of the world, right?
Right.
There are good people in this world. And so we've had kids come back as coaches, as race crew members, and they, last week we did a girls' event at Bear Creek State Park, and I asked, there was just these most confident, gracious, existing riders with teams, and I asked the girls, so what is it about high school mountain biking that you love so much? And they said the community, that they have community. And, I have athletes come back and say it changed my life because it gave them a sense of belonging. And we all need a sense of belonging.
Don't we? That is so good. So tell me this, what is the vision for the Colorado League? Are you guys right on path what you're doing? I know it's extended now a little bit into South Dakota, a little bit into New Mexico. I imagine that you've been kind of a beacon for other organizations to take a look at, to follow. Is the job or the mission to keep growing the numbers from over 2,000 athletes to 2,500, 3,000? Like, where do you guys see the organization going in the next handful of years?
Well, I believe every kid should have the opportunity to do this. And so there's over 800 schools in Colorado alone, and currently we have 94 teams.
Wow.
Representing about 180 schools. So we have miles to grow. And Southern Wyoming has participated since day one, Laramie, Cheyenne, Casper. So we welcome as many kids and families to join. And the biggest component of that are coaches. As I always say, coaches are gold. Without coaches, we can't do this. The coaches are the ones that really recruit the kids and nourish those kids and see who they are and bring out the best in them. We just have a platform in which there's an opportunity for that to happen.
So you support the coaches through training and education. Are the coaches volunteers, or are they paid, or how does that work?
It's a mix. Most coaches are volunteers. And back to that component of schools, now we are getting more traction in schools where the administrations are supporting that head coach. Canyon City, Salida, Boulder, Fairview. The administrations are now seeing, hey, this team is bigger than our football team, so let's support the coach and the or club sponsor who is providing this opportunity and guiding these kids in this very exciting, adventurous, welcoming activity.
That's wonderful. So the goal for you guys is to get more schools involved of
Yes.
the current we have. And here's kind of one of my wind down questions, and it may be a bit of a sticky one only because of the type of work that you guys do. Is there a place for, we'll call it just the adaptive kid, where whether there's a physical, a mental disability, something like I could think of, for example, here's why this brought it in my mind. My wife got into a car crash and it really messed her neck up. And so riding a traditional mountain bike for 5 minutes takes her out just
Right.
because of the positioning, right, of the handles and leaning forward and all that. But on an e-bike, she can go along and be part of the fun without stressing her body. That would be an example of an adaptive measure for someone to be able to do something like this.
Right.
Are you guys set up for that kind of thing? Or is it right now just, hey, you have to have a certain level of fitness, you have to be a certain level of ability, if you will, for lack of a better term, to participate right now?
Yeah. So excellent question. We have had many kids with disabilities participate. We've had a kid with a prosthetic. We've had a rider who had to have a nasal cannula, so her dad rode with them. We have kids with diabetes. We have kids on the spectrum. So what we provide is what's known as a ride guide. So we've had many kids on the spectrum, and they have a guide that rides with them to help them deal with the sensory integration components and things like that. And so that guide has a vest, and everybody knows that they're a ride guide, and they help the racer, because they are a racer, they're timed, they have a number plate, everything. They're treated just like everyone else, but they have a guide. So helps them move over to pass or to hear or to get over anxiety if they're going down a downhill, things like that. And so those kids evolve oftentimes to where they don't need their guide after a year or two. And we've had a young man from the San Luis Valley who had cerebral palsy, and he had a trike, and he couldn't do a whole lap, and the courses were too difficult for him to get through them, but we created a chase race. So every race that he and his team were at, we created a special course, and Chase would just do a lap.
Wow.
In the venue to make him feel part of a team. And he had a jersey, and his whole team would ride with him. And I'd hand him a bottle like he was in the feed zone.
Yeah.
So he got to experience that whole
The experience
aspect
of it. Yeah.
Yes, and felt welcome. And he wore his jersey proudly and was at every race. So we try to accommodate to the best of our ability.
That is incredible. That just warms my heart. And I know that people watching and listening to this, Kate, are probably going, wow, I never thought that biking could have such a big impact unless they've done it. So if people wanted to volunteer or to donate to help you guys, like you say, you give scholarships and you help with trail repairs and all this other stuff, how could they get in contact with you and with the league to support you in some way?
Well, Kate at coloradomtb.org is how to support or how to contact me. So being a coach is huge. So on our website, we have a list of teams. If you see a team in your area that you would want to contribute a couple of afternoons in the fall, we love coaches. Coaches are critical to helping us grow and to make this opportunity available to more kids. Volunteering at races, we need over 100 volunteers per day to make the experience exceptional for our student athletes and teams, from parking to being a course marshal, course crossings, and there's all types of shifts from 1 hour to all day, depending on your schedule or what you want to be doing. And also donating your time and money. And thank you, Ramos Law, for being a sponsor. We're always looking for sponsors. You can donate your car. There's all kinds of ways to contribute.
Well, I appreciate so much what you were doing. That's why we are definitely sponsoring and helping underwrite some of the costs of this, because we believe in the mission of helping kids, of keeping people healthy, of connecting to nature. All that is part of what we do. And so I can't thank you guys enough for what you've started, Kate, and the group, that it continues to grow and flourish, and how we're all better for it, right? We're better. We see better people getting developed. Our lands are healthier. Our kids are happier. And happy kids means a lot of times happy homes, because their joy will expand into their classrooms and into their homes. So thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it so much. And again, we are big supporters of yours, and I just wish you the best this upcoming season.
Thank you. Here's to better living through cycling.
I love it. I love it. So you heard it right there first. Here's to better living through cycling. If you found this to be inspiring to you, number one, get out on a bike. Even if it's not on a mountain bike, get out, ride, get into nature. It makes a difference to your, to your whole health and your mental fitness and your physical fitness. Also, if you would, leave us a 5-star if you thought this was good. We need more people to hear the message, and the only way that we're going to get that done is basically for people to like what they hear, to be either educated or inspired or maybe entertained a little bit, and then pass that along. So if you would do that, do the 5 stars, the likes, the engagements, and the postings and sharing and all the stuff that you guys do way better than me. If you would do that, it would mean the world to me. Thank you so much. And until next time, remember, get out there and make a difference.